Hi guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Nika and I make book related videos, and as you can see, today I'm going to be sharing with you all about the books I read in the month of July. If you like this video, don't forget to click on the thumbs up icon and subscribe if you haven't already. But without further ado, let's jump right in and I'll share the stats with you. So I ended up reading 6 books in the month of July, and out of those, let me check, 1, 2, 3 books were physical books. 4 books were physical books and 2 books were ebooks. So let's begin. However, I have to tell you that my reading month in July wasn't very fulfilling. I still have reservations about what I feel about these books, and none of them were 5 stars, sadly. So okay, let's begin. The first book I want to share with you all is Incest by Marcus de Sade. Before I share my thoughts with you, here's a brief synopsis. When the immoral libertine Monsieur de Franvel marries and fathers a daughter, he decides to inculcate in her a sense of absolute freedom, an unconventional education that involves the two becoming secret lovers. But Franvel's virtuous, God-fearing wife becomes suspicious and confronts him, setting off a tragic chain of events. Part of Sade's The Crime of Love cycle, this shocking tale, which was among the writings banned for publication until the 20th century, tests the limits of morality and portrays the disastrous consequences of freedom and pleasure. So this is set in basically revolutionary France, and I have to begin by saying that I rated it 3 out of 5 stars. Now, the topic itself of incest is not something very easy to read. Of course, you have to go in knowing something like that is going to happen. I mean, you can know from the title itself, and you have to go in with with a proportionate amount of openness and willingness to at least read about it. So this is not just a love story between these two people, essentially a father and a daughter, but a discourse on what too much freedom can do to a person, the effect of society, nature versus nurture, how you are brought up versus how a person innately is, what right society has to dictate rules upon us, rules about relationships, whatever sort of relationships they are, familial, of lovers, or whatever it is, all of that. It was a good a good treatise on that, because the lead character, Monsieur de Franvel, he is one such person who absolutely scoffs at all of these rules made by society, and that is why he decides that when his daughter is born, it's essentially like he carries out an experiment with her. And you can't really blame the girl, because I feel like as a person who has been brought up away from society, away from a society in which generally human beings live and whose rules they follow, she never really knows what is right and what is wrong. So that whole concept of right and wrong, morality, everything is not inculcated in her. So all of that, I think I could write tons and tons on this if I actually sit down and ruminate and think about it. But this is it for the short review video. But overall, it was an interesting read. It will lead you into different parts of thinking, of introspection, based on what society's whole aspect of nature versus nurture, society's role and everything. So you can have a lot of discussions on this, and it's very short as well. 107 pages long only. So this was a very, very short read, but of course it's not for everyone, because I feel like you need to have a certain mental level of mental growth before you pick up something like this. So yeah, this was one book that I read, the first book that I read in July, and I rated it 3 stars. Then moving on, I read Women and Ghosts by Alison Lurie. Now this author, Alison Lurie, is actually a Pulitzer Prize winner, and I did not know that. But again, this was something that I should have known, but never mind, I learned about it now. So anyway, yeah, this is a collection of stories about women and ghosts and how everything, it was basically a feminist collection but with a supernatural or surreal angle. The sad thing is that I don't remember a lot about this book. I think it's a collection of tales that kind of does justice to the female voice, giving a voice to all of these mostly female characters and what they had to go through, because I think this is set in the 60s. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure of that, because when I was reading it very much so from the perspective of pleasure, as mindless read, to be very honest. So I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the historical placing, the significance, all of that. Overall, it was an okay read, and like I said, I hardly read any exceptional books in July, so this was among those better ones, and I rated this book a 3 stars. This was actually a physical book that I read, but I've lent it to a friend now, so I don't have it with me. But yeah, this was another book that I rated 3 stars. The next book that I picked up is My Happy Marriage, the manga. So the thing is, I remember reading the light novel months ago. I think it's been quite a long time since I read it, and it was not complete then, so I left it halfway. But then the Netflix series came out and I was so happy, and I've been watching it regularly. I've been loving it, so I thought, why not check it out? So I went back to it and I read it again. It was a nice story. Basically, we have a girl called Mio who is the firstborn daughter of this nobleman, but she does not have any superpowers in that world. Compared to her younger sister from her stepmother, because her mother, who was the first wife of this nobleman, she died, so he married the second wife, and then the daughter from the second wife, the younger sister, essentially has superpowers. Now the stepmom and this younger sister have never treated her well, and so she essentially grows up like a servant in that house. And now she is betrothed to this powerful person, Kudo, and she calls him Kudo-sama. And so basically she is betrothed to him now, when she's in her she's 18, 19, 20, like that, and she goes to live with him before they're married. And that whole relationship, how it blossoms, both of them are so very different, but then both complement each other, the growth of the relationship. There's also a political background going on in the, not actually political, it's like the world building of that world, because it's supernatural, everybody's got powers and everything. There's also the machinations of all the different people, of all the different characters, and it was a very interesting read. I love Mio, and I love that the Netflix series is going ahead even after the manga ends, so we will get to see more, and I am very excited to see how Mio's character growth will be. It's essentially a love story, but it's got, of course, elements of different genres as well. So I would really recommend it. If you don't want to read it, if you're not in the mood to read it, then you can also catch a hold of the Netflix series, because it's very short, I think 20 minutes episodes, so it's a fun light watch, so you can definitely watch that. I rated My Happy Marriage 3 out of 5 stars. Then I finally read this book, Love Theoretically, by Ali Hazelwood, and I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Now, I think I have read every Ali Hazelwood book out there, and I actually really like her, although one criticism is that these are all sort of written in a formula. But like I have said again and again in this channel, when I read romance, it's mostly for mindless fun. So I don't really like to criticize the romance books that I read. So overall, I had a fun time reading it, and like I said, I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. Before I let you know my thoughts, here's a brief synopsis. The many lives of theoretical physicist Elsie Hanaway have finally caught up with her. By day, she is an adjunct professor toiling away at grading labs and teaching thermodynamics in the hopes of landing tenure. By other day, Elsie makes up for her non-existent paycheck by offering her services as a fake girlfriend, tapping into her expertly owned people-pleasing skills to embody whichever version of herself the client needs. Honestly, it's a pretty sweet gig until her carefully constructed Elsieverse comes crashing down, because Jack Smith, the annoyingly attractive and arrogant older brother of her favorite client, turns out to be the cold-hearted experimental physicist who ruined her mentor's career and undermined the reputation of theorists everywhere. And he's the same Jack Smith who rules over the physics department at MIT, standing right between Elsie and her dream job. Elsie is prepared for an all-out war of scholarly sabotage, but those long penetrating looks, not having to be anything other than her true self when she's with him, will falling into an experimentalist orbit finally tempt her to put her most guarded theories on love into practice. So it was an interesting read. Again, the third act kind of break, kind of conflict starts pretty early in this one, because I feel like the two characters get together pretty much early in this book. So a major part of the book is Elsie trying to come into her own, trying to develop her own personality, all of that. So in that, I do think this kind of breaks away from the usual Ali Hazelwood formula. It's an interesting book. I think he's a very very supportive boyfriend for her and everything. And also, one major thing that I love about Ali Hazelwood's book is that they're all set in academia, so that is something that I personally really like. Like I said, I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars. Really loved it. I do think that we could have known more about Jack Smith, the male interest, so we could have perhaps known a bit more about him. But yeah, overall it was a fun read. Elsie is nice. Elsie is funny. I also like her friend Cece, her flatmate, so that's fine as well. And all the struggles that people in academia face, all of that, it's done really well here. So yeah, it's a fun read. Again, like I said, I read romance just for the heck of it, not to critically analyze any of them. So I really enjoyed it, and I think you can definitely give it a try as well. Right, so the next book that I read is actually a poetry collection, and it is called Your Heart is a Sea by Nikita Gill. Let me read out the synopsis to you, the one that I found on Goodreads right here. Let poetry help you examine the depths of your wound. Let it remind you that no matter how deep it goes, you will be able to heal it, because you have been able to heal every single wound inflicted on your heart and soul before. Let these words show you that you will be able to find the light at the end of the wound, because you have always found your way before. So I read it on script, and it was one of those days when one of those nights when I couldn't sleep, and I felt like I needed a book to read before I actually called it a day. So I ended up reading this collection on script. I feel like at this point, modern contemporary poetry all run along the same lines. This was no exception. I personally feel, even though I rated it 3 stars, it deals with the same issues of mental health, feminism, self-help, growing through a breakup, dealing with so many different situations in your life aspects as you grow up, live alone, move away from your family, get into the relationships, get out of relationships, and all of that. So it was along those lines, and honestly at this point I feel like I don't have anything to say anything exceptional to say about this book. So it was a fun enough read, but I do think that the cover is very beautiful. It's very stark, very powerful, I think. So yeah, that's my very brief review for this book. It's not that exceptional. I think you can really pass this one. It's not also life changing or anything like that. So yeah, that's my review for this book. Then I finally picked up the Dreamland Billionaire series, which is doing its rounds on social media. I've seen it for the longest time and I always wanted to read it, and so finally I had the chance to pick it up. So this is book 1, The Fine Print, and this is following Rowan and Zara. I think Rowan is the youngest brother, and this book starts with him essentially. So in Fine Print we basically follow Rowan, who is in the business of fairy tale adventure parks. Think Disneyland. So there's this Dreamland. So basically according to their grandfather's will, because the story begins with the grandfather dying, so he has his 3 grandsons carry out these tasks. So in book 1 we follow the middle son, the youngest son Rowan. In book 2 I think we'll follow the firstborn, who's Declan, and in book 3 we'll follow the middle brother, Callahan, I forgot. But anyway, so we followed Rowan, and his duty is to come up with a plan to make the business much better, the amusement park much better. And so for this he enlists the help of Zara, who will be our female main character, who is one of the workers in this park, and it is her idea that he picks to develop on for the growth and development of the park. And their romance is very interesting. It's also kind of hidden identity. It's also boss employee. It's set in this beautiful, amazing fairy tale-esque park, and they are also working together on carrying out this vision, you know, this project. So there's a lot of vision, there's a lot of romance and other stuff as well. So we do get to follow these two characters a lot, and when the romance actually blooms, I really like it. And I think Zara is a very interesting character. She's bright, she's bubbly, she knows what she wants. She's already, I would say, even though, you know, it's a romance book and ultimately she will go through her own character growth arc, even though that will happen eventually, like it does in all books, I feel Zara is a very well-formed character even when in the beginning. So it was interesting to see her evolution. It felt more realistic compared to real life, you know. So yeah, that's that. And overall, it was a really interesting book. I actually have bought the whole collection now, so I'll end up reading the other two books as well, and I'm really excited for that. These are fun enough books and I do recommend them. I think I ended up rating this book a 4 out of 5 stars. By the way, I also read this book in the physical format, but my friend just borrowed it from me, so I hope she likes it as much as I did. But yeah, so that's it. Those are all the 6 books I read in the month of July, and I hope you had a good time watching this watching me wrap up this pretty mediocre reading month. I hope August is much better, but I'm really confident that from September I'll be able to read a lot more. So maybe from September you'll see a lot more bookish videos, you know. So yeah, that's that. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to click on the thumbs up icon and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you again very soon. Until then, thank you for watching, and take care. Bye.